It's time for Mr. Fundamental!
Presented by no one.
The Detroit Pistons bought up Blake Griffin recently, but the most surprising part is him giving back just over $13 million to become a free agent. The Nets swooped in and are expected to sign Griffin to join their star-studded roster. On the other hand, Griffin's production this season hasn't really caused for much excitement, and his addition seems like a lateral move by the Nets. I just came up with a Nets breakdown yesterday, so making this video got a little bit easier. Anyways, let's take a look at how he'll fit in, and then my verdict on this signing. Griffin hasn't been the same since his injury last year. A player who twice led the league in dunks in the past decade has yet to make his first one this season. We can talk about his decline, his injuries, and losing his athleticism, but what hasn't been pointed out is the position he's in. The Pistons' rebuild has no intention of putting him in a position to succeed. After the double pin down, he uses the screen himself. He hands it back to right and proceeds to spot up on the weak side away from the action. Griffin would have been a lot more effective being in Plumlee's position, setting the screen then turning it into a handoff in the corner with a capable shooter. The Pistons couldn't put Griffin there because they added 3 non-stretch centers in the offseason, so Griffin is relegated to spot-up duties. Griffin can knock down these occasionally, but shooting has never been his primary skill. This has forced Griffin to move out to the perimeter even more than before. He initiates the pick and roll, but his defender will always go under the screen. If he was in his pre-injury form, maybe he would drive aggressively, but now he has to settle for pull-up jumpers. Here's another pick and roll, and look at the lengths Harden goes under the screen to dare Griffin to shoot. He complies, and the shot goes in and out. Just to indicate Griffin's move to the perimeter, here's where he's taking all his shots. A career low at the rim, and more than 50% of his shots are coming from beyond the arc. Now turning to his percentage of field goal assisted, a career low in 2-point field goals, and a third lowest for 3-pointers. This is not the recipe to acclimate or maximize a returning injured player. To add salt to the wound, the Pistons turns to him when the offense bogs down, and force him to bail them out. The screen into flare gets nowhere. The offense gets stagnant, and Grant tries ISO against a decent defender in Looney. This gets nowhere again, and he kicks it out. Good move by Griffin to try a handoff, but Wright turns it down. Now Griffin's option is to go into the post against one of the best defenders in the league with 5 seconds left to generate a shot. It's no wonder Griffin's efficiency has been awful. Joining a star-studded Nets, all this won't be a problem anymore. The Nets are the second best 3-point shooting team, with their top 4 most played players hitting more than 40% from deep, so spacing isn't going to be an issue. Their willingness to go small is also a benefit, meaning Griffin could be a sole big on the floor and getting this dump-off pass for the finish. What I'm excited about are these short rolls. Teams are going to show or double their stars in pick and rolls. Griffin has plenty of experience as a short roller, and he'll make the defense pay with a pass or strong drive to the rim. Same thing again, Harden gets doubled on the handoff and hits Griffin on the short roll. With Jordan on the floor for this possession, this is what it usually looks like back in the Clippers' Lob City days. One of the Nets' problems I've touched upon in my last video is that their stars' tendency to over-dribble. It could be their eagerness to pad stats, or their screeners aren't accustomed to the short roll. If this was Jordan, he isn't exactly a threat if he got the ball here. He's not a shooter, and taking dribbles to the rim could lead to turnovers. As for Green, he's a perimeter player playing up a position, so this isn't really his forte. After not getting the ball here, he rolls through and eliminates himself as a passing option. The Hawks double hard after that, and they force a turnover. Griffin is capable of this. He can make shots, put the ball on the floor, and still quicker than Jordan to get from here to here before the defense could rotate over. What's encouraging is that Nick Claxton was doing just this in the past few games, and they're already getting great results from it. The Rockets double, and Claxton slips. Harden hits him on the short roll and sucks in the defense. One pass fake gets rid of the help, and one dribble gets him right to the rim. It won't be hard to see Griffin doing something similar in these situations, and taking advantage of the outnumbered defense. These short rolls will be useful when the defense doubles, or if they play a non-stretch center next to Griffin. With that said, Griffin's got some adjustments to make as well. Playing next to another big in recent years has made him pop after screens even more. After the handoff, he pops out to the wide open wing. Plumlee is relocating to the opposite dunker spot, so a roll here or an aggressive drive could be a better option than Griffin's below average jumper. I guess there's something to monitor, whether Griffin can regain his attacking mentality now that there's a lot more shooting around him. Looking up and down their roster, the Nets don't have a scoring big man. It's not super necessary, but it's nice to have that option. Kyrie, Harden, and KD all do their damage starting from the perimeter, so screens between their best players would usually just warrant a switch between good defenders. While Griffin doesn't really change this, they do have the option to throw it to him in the post to do some damage. Bear in mind, he's going to be going up against the 4th best defender at best, and likely some second units as well. On top of all this, Griffin's passing could be another weapon. The Nets have gotten Jordan to initiate possessions near the top of the key, and I've mentioned how the Nets are nearly unstoppable if they run some sets. Unfortunately, they rarely do this. I don't know whether it's their star's preference to ISO, or the uptick in Jordan's turnover rates this season. Now replacing Jordan with Griffin, there's a higher chance of these plays actually connecting. Whether Griffin's man sags or presses up, it doesn't matter. If his man sags back to protect the paint, Griffin could run a handoff to create some space for their stars. The fit isn't as great if they plan on playing Griffin at the 4. What I've talked about so far could still work, but Griffin's jumper is going to be a bigger factor. There's no other way around it, and Griffin would just have to knock down these shots, but at least most of these will be catch and shoot attempts now. Griffin hasn't been known as a defender, and his addition isn't going to fix the Nets' problems either. As I've said in my previous video, part of the Nets' defensive issue is their stars' technique and effort. Griffin has his own problems. Draymond gets 3 steps ahead of him before he even reacts, it starts to run back, and that led to the transition bucket. Griffin shows some great calms to call out the back screen on the weak side, but when Harden drives middle, Griffin's contest is just ineffective. He's on the weak side again. It takes too long for him to recognize the back cut, and he's not really a rim protector to make up for it. Griffin also doesn't fit into their switching schemes, since he's grading out near the bottom so far this season, but there is one area for optimism. Griffin is more mobile than Jordan, so he's more willing to show up higher on screens. His big body is still hard to get around, and he stops the Harden drive. Same thing again, Griffin is showing higher than Jordan normally would. When Harden kicks it out for the pop, Griffin is more willing and quick enough to close this gap, and then holds his own on the drive. I've shown Jordan's sagging strategy before. Here he doesn't want to switch onto Young, leaving him open for the mid-range jumper. As for this possession, he doesn't even try to recover on the pick and pop, and they give up a good look from deep. If necessary, Griffin is more willing to switch after being in a showing position, for better or worse. Even if Griffin gets schooled one-on-one, he did eliminate the initial opening from the first action. Griffin isn't going to be a difference maker defensively, but he could provide an alternative option to what the Nets have been doing so far on defense. Of course, all this is just based on how the Nets have been playing and Griffin's track record. I mean, Griffin could even pull a Jay Crowder and light it up beyond the arc for the rest of the season, or sit on the bench and get DMPs. That's what makes this signing interesting. Griffin's best case scenario could add another dimension to an already insane offense. At worst, the Nets don't play him, continue to do what they've been doing so far, and lean on Jordan, Green, and recently Claxton as their bigs. The risk and reward is worth it, and all at the cost of a roster spot and at most the 5.9 million MLE. My verdict is that it's a good move. Even though it doesn't solve their most glaring weakness, he adds depth and strengthens their second unit, while also keeping him away from other contenders. Griffin isn't going to do everything in this video, but that's how he would be the most effective. Let me know what you guys think of this signing, and whether this changes the NBA championship landscape. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Remember to drop a like down below, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you guys next time.